As a PlayStation 4 exclusive and a new IP, many people had high expectations for Knack. Does Knack live up to the hype, or does it fall under the common trend of lackluster system launch titles? At a first glance, Knack looks like a revival of the old-school action-adventure genre, following in the footsteps of the likes of Ratchet & Clank and Jak and Daxter. Knack lives up to one of the high points of those previous games in the way of gameplay. The gameplay is fun, easy to jump into, but quickly gets very challenging. But even though frustration can ensue because of the high difficulty, the player knows that deaths are their own fault and how they can fix them next time. One aspect that highlights the fun combat in Knack is the enemy variety in the game. There's always different types of enemies that require different strategies to defeat. And even though sometimes you can enter a new area with new enemies and get your ass kicked, it's always satisfying to come back and defeat that same area without even getting hit once after you learn the habits of those enemies. Gameplay also varies as Knack changes size. Knack can collect relics to grow larger, and this can give him an advantage over some enemies. Playing as small Knack, you don't have as much of a life bar, so you can't take as many hits before you die. As you grow larger, there can be some epic moments as you can tear through cities and pick up cars and throw them at enemies. There are some very large-scale boss fights where you seem so much smaller than the enemy. But then sometimes you can even come back as a larger Knack, and those once seemingly large bosses are now smaller than you, and you can kill them in one blow a second time. And even the final boss fight is such a large scale, it's reminiscent of almost Shadow of the Colossus type of scale, as you're a large Knack, but your enemy is so much larger than you, and it makes for such an epic boss battle. And these varieties of sizes keep the game fresh, and you're not always playing as the same character essentially. You're always growing and changing, so you're not always going into situations against enemies in the same exact way. Visually, Knack has beautiful environments and characters, and you can tell that it is a next-gen game. Cutscenes remind you more of like a Pixar or a DreamWorks movie. Those graphics carry over into gameplay as well. Environments remind you of Indiana Jones, Uncharted, Tomb Raider, or even National Treasure, as you're going from jungle areas into deep tombs with traps all along the way. And even though the graphics might not be hyper-realistic like some gamers expect, one could say the visuals of Knack cannot be pulled off as well if it were on a Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3. Knack suffers when it comes to its length. Even though the gameplay is fun and there's a variety of enemies, the length of the game makes these elements become stale towards the end. Other low points of Knack are that the characters are not very likable, and this could be because of the voice actors. There are some points when Knack will be small and he doesn't talk, and then other times Knack will grow larger and he'll start talking and you wish he hadn't. And even some main characters, such as the Doctor, are so annoying throughout the game that you don't even care about meeting their objective and you just want the game to end as soon as possible. Another part of Knack that some could consider a negative point, others a positive point, is the amount of cutscenes throughout the game. It seems as though the cutscenes act as checkpoints so you know where you will return to when you die. And checkpoints have to be pretty frequent because of the difficulty of the game, so that means cutscenes are frequent. Now this isn't the kind of like Metal Gear Solid 4 cutscenes where they go on for a long time. These are just short, quick cutscenes, but they're very frequent and they break up the gameplay. And the cutscenes would be fine if the story of the game was actually captivating. The story is just run-of-the-mill, good guys versus bad guys. Then there's those people that you know are going to be bad from the beginning of the game, and you gotta save the town, get the girl, then the game ends. The game does have some replay value, even though the gameplay will get stale towards the end. There still is the idea of collectibles, which are actually implemented pretty nicely throughout the game. And these collectibles actually build up to unlock new powers and new costumes for Knack. And thankfully for the tolerable gameplay of Knack, these unlockables actually do encourage a little bit of replay value. Couch co-op also extends the lifetime of Knack. This is perfect for a father-son, mother-daughter gameplay experience, where they can work together in a kid-friendly game that both people can enjoy. In conclusion, Knack is a good-looking game. It has a nice concept, and you explore some interesting environments. Most of all, it has some solid gameplay. It actually feels like a video game. However, the story often gets in the way, and the boring cutscenes with annoying characters break up the good gameplay. All in all, Knack is an enjoyable experience, and I recommend it to PlayStation 4 owners if they enjoyed games in the past, like Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter, and would like a little bit of a nostalgia trip. Knack gets a 3 out of 5.